What is up, best ballers? We are back with another edition of Best Ball Boardroom. The final day in July. We are almost into the month that everything happens. We are already getting the training camp news, even just minutes later. Oh, we've got Tim Patrick going down. We will jump into everything, all of the craziness of the weekend. Jonathan Taylor, running backs, more running backs, all the running backs. Wide receivers finally getting a little interesting, unfortunately, at the behest of injuries. But first off, joining me today, we are going to nerd out because this is where my analytics is nothing compared to what we were seeing here. I'm excited to bring on. He's coming from most recently a new gig as a data scientist at Fantasy Pros, previously with some bet spurts, with 4for4 football. He's been in this space for a while. He's been digging into the best ball stuff. I remember last year we chatted a little as well. Always enjoy his data. Sam Hoppin, how are we doing? Oh, we're muted. That's the there it is.
There we go. I wanted to make sure I was muted for the intro and didn't disrupt that awesome background music. But I'm great. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate all the kind words. I'm excited to be here.
Nice. First off, so you've only been at the new gig for a few months now. Joining right as kind of football season starts, best ball season kicking off. What's that been like, and what have you been kind of doing in the best ball streets?
It's good. Yeah, it's day 31, so not even barely even a full month. So doing some content, doing some stuff on the background as well. Have been dipping my toes into other sports as well. So have taken a little bit of a back step on the best ball analysis stuff, but still doing plenty of drafts out there and keeping my ear to the ground with what's rolling.
Love it. I love it. And speaking of, I just put out a roll call. Who we got here? We'll jump into a BBM pretty soon and see if we can get some friends in that draft. But yeah, so sad news. Looking like Tim Patrick, who just cannot fight that injury bug, maybe even a torn Achilles here, one of the worst injuries. Sad to see. Obviously, increased opportunity from Marvin Mims, a little more security with Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. I don't know. I got to at least give our instant reactions there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's tough. It from a human perspective, it really sucks. Toward the ACL last year and was just now coming back. Seemed like a good, again, from a fantasy perspective, sleeper pick. I think people are obviously down on the Broncos offense. So that provides a little bit of a post-type sleeper aspect to it, but this should open up plenty of opportunity for Marvin Mims to take that wide receiver 3 role as a rookie and potentially, get more opportunity than some of these other guys that he's going around. So I've been excited about Mims all off season. This only further iterates that, but it just sucks to see from Tim Patrick's perspective.
Yeah, because we got the reports earlier. Tim Patrick might be the best wide receiver in the room. Obviously, we got that influencer 1.01. We'll take that. But yeah, with the Tim Patrick, and then that contract he signed, which was now 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, was legit wide receiver money. Was really excited to see what he actually have on the field. From information wise, it at least gives us a little more confidence in those 3. Mims has been dealing with a little injury himself. He's back at practice today. But Andrew has the question of the day. Where should Mims be being drafted right now? I'll scroll up and show some of the wide receiver and you tell me, where are you drafting Mims ahead of?
Ooh, let's see here. It's probably ahead of Mingo. I think I'd take him over Mingo at this point. Over Osborne. I'm not a big Thielen fan, so probably right around Gallup. Now that I think about it, I think he's got a similar, little bit more downside, but a similar upside profile to Gallup right now.
Yeah, and that puts it at around that 135, 140. We took Jefferson. Sorry if I jumped the gun there.
Hey, that's where I was gonna go. So totally fine.
So because I do think I don't know, I kind of draft as if there's a little tier break after that Michael Gallup aspect. These are ETR ranks, so obviously not by ADP. but would not be shocked to see Mims kind of climb up to. Gallup feels a little expensive just because like I'm trusting the Dallas offense a little more. I think Gallup, like, yeah, I mean, he's not going to play in 2 wide receiver sets without an injury, but like we know he at least has a connection with Dak. He's been there before, even though it wasn't that great. He's 2 years removed from the injury, not a rookie. But if you're then going to say right after that, like MVS, Adam Thielen, Osborne, Rashee Rice, like Mims feels like a decent bet on those.
Yeah, and you got to think about, again, obviously the opportunity that they can have. I mean, I think there's a possibility that he could supplant Sutton as the wide receiver too. I mean, I'm really high on Jerry Jeudy this year as well, so don't think he'll quite get there. But the Broncos don't really have much in the way of tight end talent too, so maybe they roll out a lot of 11 personnel and he gets on the field a lot more. But certainly, again, I think there will probably be a bit of an overreaction on Mims, just probably more than it should be, given, again, he's a rookie. That generally will drive up his ADP, just the added potential opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see where his ADP settles.
Yeah, I think Sutton's probably the quiet winner in that situation, just because like it gives us more confidence. Like I'm not expecting Mims to overtake Courtland Sutton at least at the beginning of the season. There were rumors that they were going to trade Courtland Sutton, that he was falling out of favor. Tim Patrick was far more of a threat at the early part of the year to Courtland Sutton's role. And now with that not happening, Marvin Mims hasn't had much practice, like still is a rookie. I think Courtland Sutton at 98 becomes a value. I wouldn't be shocked if he starts going maybe at about that 90 range, maybe right behind Zay Flowers. I think he'll move ahead of Michael Thomas. Those two have been kind of back and forth throughout the offseason.
Yeah, and I've liked Sutton, sort of where he's going, because again, it's baked in most of his downside. I think where he is, he has shown the ability to have a ceiling as well. And again, it's not like the sexiest pick because he's several years into his career. Again, there were the trade rumors, all that sort of stuff. But if he's with the team, if the Broncos do bounce back, I think he still has a pretty significant role.
Yeah, and you talked about like the tight ends. I mean, yeah, I think Dulcich. I mean, I'm not sure what role Troutman. Obviously, Troutman has the relationship with Peyton from New Orleans. I do think like there is chatter like Dulcich could play a bit more of that big guy role that we just don't have among the current wide receivers. Like Sutton feels like he's going to play a bit more of that Michael Thomas slant role. Jeudy kind of excelled on the outside last time with Russ. We'll see what Peyton has planned for him, but yeah, I don't know if this substantially increases or changes the tight ends there, but like I do think Dulcich is play. Oh, we are back on the clock here. We top of the draft is a Derrick Henry. You then have major teardrop. What are you looking at here? What are you thinking?
I kind of like Hurts here. I mean, I know we don't have either of the stacks, but I think he's fine unstacked as well.
Okay.
Could get Goddard later as well. The second one I'm really torn on. Like you could go Ridley or Debo. I don't really like Henry or Jacobs, so Andrews in the conversation as well. This is a very tough spot for me.
It is. And like before, I was drafting Jacobs before Henry. Like I like those other running backs. If Devonta Smith, if T. Higgins, if Olave would here, I'd probably go with that.
Yeah.
I think I got to just go Derrick Henry. Like you just got to get the exposure. You have the ADP aspect. It feels a little gross. Like honestly, yeah, after Henry, sure, if you want your QB, it just starts feeling a bit of an awkward when earlier in the summer we were loving picks 1, 2, 3 because of what you could get in the third round.
Yeah. There is a very big tier break, I think, at wide receiver there. I think some are going to argue that Calvin Ridley deserves to be up there given his training camp hype video from last week. But I think after, again, Olave, Higgins, and Smith, you take a pretty big jump down there.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I mean, like, hey, that's why a week or so ago when we were getting Barkley at there, because he was falling from the like that felt awesome. Who knows? Maybe give it a couple weeks, give it a week, and we'll be like, no, Jacobs is actually should be there. Brees Hall, because Dalvin signs with Miami or New England or something, should be there. New England doesn't bring in someone else, or Ramondre should. Like, there's lots of options here. But let's give a quick shout out. Yeah, I see you, Jeremy, in the 6th spot, going with a Kelsey, Mahomes, and a Josh Allen. Was that an auto draft or is that a unique build you're going with a Josh Allen? I'm curious there. Elsewhere in the draft, we got a bunch of badges. Batch here going 3 straight RBs. Amok going 3 straight wide receivers. We got an oopsie here, Jeremy. Let us know what happened. That's not. I don't think you wanted the Josh Allen after going with that KC stack.
It'll certainly give him some uniqueness, that's for sure. I mean, I remember earlier in the offseason, people talking about how many Mahomes Kelsey teams there are going to be, because it's a relatively easy stack to get for those top guys. And so, yeah, you're adding a little bit uniqueness there by drafting a second elite quarterback.
For me, with uniqueness, and I know you're just trying to kind of play a little nice and such. Jeremy's he's a regular. He's a big boy. He can take it. I don't like uniqueness when it comes in the form of a onesie position that I can only play one each week. Give me Kelsey and Mark Andrews, and in a 1-week sample size, I can definitely get uniqueness. I'm laughing. I'll show you guys in a second why I'm laughing. But then I actually get value of that week 17. Kelsey, Andrews both go off, and that helps me. I don't value from any uniqueness in a 1-week sample size. You can argue maybe like, oh, you needed Josh Allen in this week and Mahomes in this week, vice versa. But I was laughing because this is not safe. Jeremy is drafting and driving and watching the stream and typing in chat. Sorry, legal called me on the line. They're saying we're going to have to sign a liability. We have absolutely no recommendation. You should not be drafting, driving, watching, and chatting at the same time. Please choose only one of those, maybe 2 in the future.
Yeah, don't do that at home, kids.
And the draft is getting a little wonky here. Lamar falling down here to 35 with Andrews going all the way at 26. I'm still seeing it happen occasionally, but it's seeming harder and harder to get that Lamar and Andrews stack at the back here, to the point that even some people, sharper people, are drafting like Lamar Andrews here to stack with a Jefferson, Chase, get unique.
Yeah, you're going to have to, again, it's seeming more likely that you're going to have to pay up for one of those guys in order to build that stack. And I remember trying to think, I think there was a similar dynamic going on last year with another team. But again, you're from the uniqueness perspective, I don't want to drive that home too much, but pairing Jefferson with Jackson and Andrews is going to be more unique. So that's the last time I say unique this episode.
So and then I'll pry into this a little more. For best ball season this year, obviously you are very data focused. What do you feel that your edge is in best ball? Is it evaluation of players because of the data? Is it the best ball trends, year over year data trends? Is it construction? Like what do you think is your edge and how do you lean into that?
That's a really good question. I think it's probably the player takes. I mean, I think that's where the majority of people's edges are going to come these days. And because the content out there has gotten incredible. Like there's so much more information out there and analysis on these different things. And it's really tricky thing to analyze because the puzzle that made up last year is very different than what we have this year. Sorry, I'll stop talking while we're on the clock here.
You were the first guest who was stopped on their own. I appreciate that. All right, we got Kirk at the top. You've got the Kenneth Walker with the injury. We've got Hawkinson if we wanted to go for Minnesota. We got Ayuk, Marquise. Like what? Lot of options here. A lot of ways to go.
I like the wide receivers here. Kirk is fine. Ayuk. I'm high on Johnson, but that feels like a bit of a reach. So I don't have much Ayuk. So let's do Ayuk. Not that this is my my
Nope.
portfolio here. But
I like it. I'm also thinking if we have Hurts, I want to kind of give us some stack partners that are later stack partners. Yes, we could have gone Hawkinson there, but then I'm like, okay, we're going to want Cousins, and in that 96, 97 range, it's a little overspending on Cousins when you already have an elite QB. But Purdy and Brandon Ayuk fit very well.
Yeah.
Maybe Kittle, if Kittle were to fall to us at 72, that's a round of value on a player I'm not getting much of, but at least you're taking that value. Definitely don't hate it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think the player take is where you have to be the most aggressive, because again, the roster construction stuff is pretty mainstream, I guess, and I'm sure there are people who are drafting who aren't familiar with it, which is totally fine. From an analytical perspective too, it's trying to understand the range of outcomes for these people. There's so much to it, right? It's hard to have all of that at once to know, and some people do it very well, yourself included. Know where you stand on players, know where you stand on roster construction, whether you believe in the week 17 correlation, stuff like that. And you
speak of that as if it's like Santa Claus or something. Whether you believe in week 17 correlation and he's going to eat your cookies and fall down your chimney.
It's clearly a thing, but how much, I guess I should say how much you weight it in your drafting. I think that the player takes is something I've gotten more, especially now that I'm this is my first year doing rankings. They're having me do rankings for draft season and stuff. I've learned more about, again, what I value, who I value, all that sort of stuff, and have built that, again, analysis over the last several months of doing drafts and things.
What's your rankings process?
It's probably not the best one at this point. It's,
you got to start somewhere.
You start with ADP because it's similar to what you guys do at ETR. There are some ADP dynamics that you want to account for. You don't want to rank. I don't think there's any sense in ranking someone 2 rounds ahead of ADP, because you sort of know that you can get them a little bit later, but it's favoring the youth. I don't know, guys like Adam Thielen just don't do it for me. Trying to project out what opportunity these guys have to grow. And it's a little bit different whether you're ranking for redraft versus best ball, because redraft, a guy like Adam Thielen could provide a couple of, usable weeks. Whereas in best ball, I don't know that he's got the weekly ceiling as, maybe a Jonathan Mingo, his teammate, who I really, really like this year. So it's starting with ADP baseline, checking out, again, some of the other people who are really good at rankings to see where they have people. I think it would be foolish to not pick up on some of those ideas as well. And then trying to understand the team dynamics, the level of opportunity, which, coaches' favorite players, all that sort of stuff. It's a lot. I will say that.
So I think it's a little interesting. When I think of Fantasy Pros, and I think of particularly from probably 10 years ago, was the place I would go, because when I was trying to find rankings, I would pull up okay, these 10 people I really respected, and Sean Kerner is in there, and I think Justin Boone was a number, and Pat Fitzmaurice, Pat something was another one, and these are the ones I'm okay, I know they've done well. I'm putting these. Why do they need you to do rankings? Can't they just have you play with the numbers and put some good graphs together and do all the data science?
Yeah, it is, I think, a little bit promotional thing, saying, you can come here to get my rankings, obviously, and want me to compete in and promote the accuracy contest we've gotten as well. So it's helped me, again, understand where I stand on some of these players, and which I think are discounted versus reaches.
Yeah. All right, we are back. Dallas Goedert's probably the first one we need to discuss. Do we draft Dallas Goedert at ADP for the Jalen Hurts stack? Or are there other players that are kind of more valuable, more important for us?
I think it lines up super well, and it just I don't have an argument against it. So
Okay.
I think it lines up super well. Some of these other receivers, I know Addison, I've been super high on, but we already have Jefferson. So it's the same thing we talked about with Hawkinson. I really like Quentin Johnson, George Pickens. So
Are you willing to consider a Dameon Pierce, or is it no, we need the wide receivers here?
I just am nothing really excites me about Dameon Pierce, to be honest, and David Montgomery. Like they're sort of just guys to me. So we could do, again, and I don't think it's a bad thing to be drafting two players from the same team without the quarterback. That's a personal, I guess, more anecdotal feel. And because again, you're buying into the offense and think that these two are going to make up potentially 55-60% of the targets in that offense, which having the quarterback would be super helpful, but it's just being bullish on that offense in general.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think you can very easily tell yourself a story that either Addison and Jefferson have strong overall seasons, strong ping pong weeks in the playoffs, or even both of them have big games in the playoffs. And Jalen Hurts still has a bigger game than Cousins throwing for 350 and 3 or 350 and 4 or something.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it either. I like it. And I'm overall just bullish on Addison in that role as a player. You spoke about not really liking Thielen. We saw Thielen have ridiculous target concentration numbers last year. Now bring in a first-round wide receiver that might be the I'm going to say second most pro-ready wide receiver. Can't really throw shade at JSN that much, but I'm willing to throw him above Quentin Johnston and some of the others for a pro-ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just the sort of, again, you take Adam Thielen out, you fit him in with Jordan Addison, and again, that's not the perfect way that these teams are going to use them, but if he does command 20% of the targets and is that wide receiver 2, he should be going in the 5th round if that was the case.
Minnesota also has a very friendly playoff schedule. If you look at the article on the ATR site by Jack Miller that assesses the playoff schedules by their current game totals and then expected points per team, I believe they are have the second most favorable schedule there. Also some good indoor weather, and I think at least 2 of their games are domes. Obviously, Week 17 is home versus Green Bay, so that helps the whole Minnesota argument in my mind as well. Taking a look at this draft. So batch 9 starts off 4 straight running backs and goes double tight end. Definitely going to be a unique build in this one. M. Jerky over here goes with the strong wide receivers and then 4 straight running backs there. Amok time has Fields and Lawrence. Just a little some wonkiness, some interesting strategies that we'll see how they play out.
Yeah, and I'm reading, I don't know if you've ever read the book Super Forecasters, but I'm in the middle of that right now. And one of the chapters I just read is about how, and this is getting real meta here, but you don't have the feedback loop as immediate as, you're not going to know for another 5 months whether that sort of build works. And batch 9, I'm not familiar with him or her, but he might not even look at this team in January or whatever and not know how it performed. And so it's that I think is some of the very fun part of best ball drafting is you don't have this feedback loop that's super immediate like DFS where you get it the next week. And so you can think you're doing the right thing and it just might not. That's also very
no, I like it, and I'll take it even a
for you to have, but
I'll take it a step further because then with feedback loops, there's a couple different variations here. There's a process review and there's a results review. And a lot with DFS, even if you're not focusing on the process aspects, which is a flaw, but a lot of people are just not going to focus on the process. They're at least going to get feedback based off the results. And usually by week 8, week 9, week 10, whether it's by choice or whether it's by their bankrolls just depleted, we see fewer and fewer people playing NFL DFS. Those first couple weeks, we see the most playing cash games, the most that are still in it. Maybe that feedback loop has told them based off their wallets, like, hey, you're not good or you haven't been doing well. With best ball, not only are you not maybe getting a feedback loop on the process to learn, like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that 2 QB, that 2 tight end, that 6 running back to start the draft, but also you're not even getting validation or, positive or negative on financially to say, you probably shouldn't be doing this because you're not winning. And I guess all that to say, like, one of the things we love about best ball, but also one of the things that like it's that much more important in my mind to focus on process. Because if you can take this and throw it in the ETR Discord, throw it in wherever you are on Twitter, and have people give you feedback, no, you're not going to know 100% whether it's right or wrong, but you can probably directionally get an idea of like, are you maybe making a little mistakes? Or are you maybe, are the things you can maybe do a little, if not better, differently?
Yeah, I have another point to make off of that after we make this pick. But yeah, like James Cook here, again, the running backs and committees, again, for me, it's tying yourself to teams with a lot of upside. And you're doing just that with James Cook. You get a little bit of ADP value. And yeah, I mean, again, Buffalo, I'd rather, if the reports or the conversations about Josh Allen truly running less do come to fruition, then Cook and Harris are going to be in really good spots.
All right, we got 20 seconds. We got an interesting choice. Kamara is the best from an ADP. AJ Dillon is the bring back to our Minnesota guys. Rashad Penny is on Philly.
Let's go Dillon.
Okay.
I like the correlation there. If, I think I was actually listening to an ETR pod this morning talking about there's a chance that Green Bay goes super run heavy. And there's a way that this plays out in week 17 where the Packers are just pounding the ball. Maybe they get up ahead and Minnesota is forced to throw the ball a ton. And so you have that automatic correlation there. I think AJ Dillon too, he's one of those guys that like you sort of know what his role is. Like he is going to be probably the 1B in that offense, but he's going to get 10 to 12 carries a game. I think in each of the last 6 or 7 weeks last year, he had at least double-digit opportunities. So he's going to have a role, and if he falls into the end zone twice in that game, then we'll be sitting pretty.
Yeah, I mean, we think of where AJ Dillon was drafted the past couple of years, and it felt like almost in the 6th, 7th round. It was that play where it was like, hey, he's going to be on the field actually getting you weekly points, but also could play his way into a larger role, or Aaron Jones goes down and now he's a workhorse. This year, I think it's a combination of last year, AJ Dillon didn't see an increase in his usage, or, and then Aaron Jones did not get hurt. So we didn't really get to see like those, 25 plus touch games. But Aaron Jones is a year older. The team is definitely not going to be as good. So maybe that's another one as well as, hey, with Rodgers, they thought they'd be ahead in more games. Now with Jordan Love, not as much. But yeah, I feel like AJ Dillon's one of those where I'm not like going out of my way to target him, but I've ended up getting a decent amount because this is also just an area I'm usually drafting running backs or tight ends. Or no, not tight ends.
Yeah.
Sorry. Running backs or QBs. Yeah.
Yeah. The running backs in this range and even in the tail end of the 7th round, we haven't been able to get this much projectable volume from running backs this late in drafts. And as long as I can remember, like, again, Rachaad White is going to be on a bad team, most likely, but he's probably going to get 15 plus opportunities a game. Like Dameon Pierce too, James Conner, like you're getting those touches. And yes, it's not going to be on great offenses, but you're getting the volume.
Yeah, no, I agree there. Sorry. Just more wonkiness happening over here. So in that 12 slot, after grabbing 4 straight running backs, grabbing 3 QBs in the next 4. Trying to see if there's stacks. No Watson stack. Dak gets the Cook stack. Daniel Jones is just by himself. Interesting.
To be fair, like none of Daniel Jones' weapons are really going that high, so he could be
Yeah,
setting up for later.
Barkley, yeah. If I grab Daniel Jones, it's usually one of two things happen. Either one, I grab Barkley and/or Waller, and I want to kind of continue betting on that offense, or I missed out on QBs, and I really want a QB that has some upside, knowing I can also stack later on with him with Hodgins, Hyatt. I'm not even X, Y, Z, A, B, C, like literally everyone else.
Yeah.
But here, when you already drafted two legitimate QBs, like I'm fine stopping with Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott. Jones seems a little luxury of a pick there, but
yeah. And these, I guess that's maybe not as an extreme of a build as some would say, but the extreme builds, like, yes, you're going to have a distinct roster.
Gosh, you were trying to be so nice,
but it's you're capping yourself. Like I'm trying to I'm trying to be critical, but also be trying to understand.
I get you.
Forget it.
No,
three quarterbacks in that range is not EV in my opinion.
Right. No, I agree. And I think just the third one there, I think Dak's a great one with Cooks. I think in general, Deshaun Watson has some value himself. You could still have probably gone like, Njoku didn't make it there, but still find some DPJ later. I'm glad we grabbed Hurts, though, the way that QBs are going a bit early here. All right, let's take a look here. Still, Cousins coming back to us is pretty interesting. Now that we're getting a little value on it, we have the double stack. I'll at least put a Q there. Running backs, there's McKinnon, there's Jamal, wide receiver, whatever, tight end. I don't know. What are you thinking?
So I do like Cousins again because we're getting him at a value 8 spots past ADP. We have the double stack. Yes, we paid up for Hurts, so like that's not ideal, but it's not like we didn't reach for Cousins in the 9th round. So I like that there. Let's see.
Probably one of these running backs or one of these wide receivers. I'm open to whatever you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I like Juju a little bit this year, but the other thing with Jamal is we passed on Kamara in favor of Dylan, so like we could potentially be making the bet that it's not gonna work out for Kamara, but I like Juju here.
Okay, Juju's a bring back to our James Cook as well, and more reports are looking like Juju is going to be one of the core, in 2 wide receiver sets, basically core part of the offense. They're kind of saying is Juju, Parker, Hunter Henry, and kind of go from there. I mean, it's not the sexiest, but also getting him as a 5th wide receiver at a little value gives us some correlation. I don't hate it.
I really appreciate ML here in the chat. If I take round 18 guys, nobody will dupe that championship.
I think he's saying there's ways to be unique while it not being plus EV.
And that's something I meant to look at this off season, but just I'm running out of time, and at this point, not sure if it's that valuable. But at what level of unique? I'm gonna figure out how to phrase this correctly. You can be unique, but you don't want to sacrifice EV, right? Like you don't want to reach on these guys to be unique. You don't want to, just go completely off the grid here, but what's the right level of maybe EV that you can't sacrifice if it's going to give you that extra opportunity?
And there's multiple ways to get unique. I think I'd kind of throw, I think there's 3 core ones that I think about. One is unique from like a composition of your lineup. So which players are drafted with who. The best way to do that is early in the draft, you can kind of go away from ADP just to get kind of 2 players that aren't drafted that often together. An example would be, I guess here, like the Mark Andrews, Lamar here with Justin Jefferson just isn't that popular of a combo. Do it also with like CMC or Jamar, and like you're just getting unique. There's the one where it's like hey, just getting that ADP value later on. This is just hard to get this group together. I honestly think that has value in ADP. I think it's least valuable from uniqueness just because it's honestly just getting you a bit more randomness. And then the third is, which I'm starting to get excited about because we're getting into August, is finding those players who haven't been being drafted all year and getting them on your team. I don't like to focus on that earlier in the offseason because you may have thought that grabbing, I don't want to use Zach Moss because of the injury he just had, but you may have thought grabbing Zamir White early on was going to be unique and you were going to be, getting him at less than 5% ownership. And then turns out now he's being drafted in every draft and you only really got like a round of value.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I think, obviously there are a lot of points made to the closing line ADP value you can get in, May and June. But yeah, no, that's a really good point. I was going to try to add something to that, but that encapsulates it all.
Yeah. Cool. Sometimes you could just say, hey, good point, Justin. And then I'll say, thanks, Sam. That's good. What is, you were talking about, you did a bunch of like projects and stuff. You've been busy. What has been the most kind of interesting or fun, data results project that you were working on that you can share? I know your pinned tweet was kind of pretty interesting. I've looked into previously, but yeah.
Yeah, that one for sure. That was something I had been wanting to do for a while, and now just sort of had the time and opportunity to do it. Is looking at sort of what play call or coach combinations add more value to the running back position. So building a model to say, okay, what's sort of the effect that these play callers and quarterbacks have on targeting running back target rate. And so seeing guys like, again, Sean Payton are a little bit higher on adding running back target share. I mean, you see Jimmy Garoppolo up there, Davis Mills. So there is a little bit of context with this. Obviously, like you saw a lot of the Russian quarterbacks at the bottom there, which makes sense. And sorry, I get distracted every time we're close to getting on the clock here.
You're good. I'm just going to throw Marvin Mims in the queue there just because, if we wanted to jump on that, he is week 9. We're a little in week 9 issue here. Other just, running backs is a bit of a cliff. Wide receiver, I don't know. You tell me, where are we going here?
I really like MVS. Here hovering over a bit there. We could go MVS and Mims. I don't hate double tapping wide receiver there, and then
anything here that looks juicy.
I like MVS, so I'm good with MVS there.
We got him.
The running backs do fall off quite a bit of a cliff there.
Do we grab Dalton Schultz and make it a 2 tight end team? Kendra Miller's kind of top at ADP. I think Marvin Mims probably feels like too much of a luxury given where we are.
Yeah, let's go Schultz. I think he's got a really solid role that he's going to have in Houston. Their wide receiver group is just not anything inspiring. It's great to see the videos of John Mechie. You're highlighting there, Derrick Henry, the correlation we have there. So, yeah, that worked out really well.
All right. I'll put this back on the screen as we've got a few picks. But yeah, so like high level here, what's my takeaway here?
So the type of model that I use to build this is a mixed effects model. I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but you essentially remove some aspects of running back target distribution that we know impacted. So how often the quarterback scrambles, how good the running backs are at pass catching, the sort of the game situation that they're in. And then what the model does is say, okay, sort of this level, we can expect this range to be influenced by the actual quarterback. So with all of those variables excluded, Jimmy Garoppolo tends to target his running backs a little bit more than the average quarterback. Davis Mills does, Matt Ryan. And then on the flip side, you see guys like, again, Josh Allen, Marcus Mariota, Lamar Jackson, who are rushing the bill. So it doesn't remove all of that from it, but you're going to generally see if you have a team led by Jimmy Garoppolo versus Lamar Jackson, you can sort of expect to see the distribution of targets to running backs be about 5 to 6% more with that Jimmy G led team.
So takeaways for this year: Jimmy G targets Josh Jacobs if Josh Jacobs plays.
Yep.
Desmond Ridder is probably the most surprising one when I'm looking at this list.
And it's it's obviously a very small sample size for Ridder. I think, again, how, you have Cordero Patterson, who is he a running back? He's designated as a running back, but he's probably throwing it to him a little bit more. You saw Tom Brady. He was always a guy who targeted his running backs a ton. We saw that even when he went from New England to Tampa Bay. So sort of used that as my barometer to make sure that this was actually working a little bit. But again, you see some of the stuff, and the guys with sort of the wider bars are a little less known. The variance is a lot wider for those sorts of guys. And so we see, like with Jalen Hurts, like we're pretty sure that he is not targeting their running backs as much as sort of the average quarterback.
Rodgers down here probably surprises me the most on this end. Obviously, wide range here, but when I think like Aaron Jones was catching shitloads of passes, maybe it's just a little recency bias, but
yeah, and this does include data since 2013, so there isn't as much recency bias in there, because I wanted to make sure, again, these quarterbacks who I've been playing for a while are capturing sort of all the situations that they've been in.
Yeah. Okay. We are about to be back on the clock. Picks 168, 169. We are pretty much done with tight end and QB, I'd say. Maybe we could get an 18th round tight end if we wanted. Leaves us a lot more, probably 6 running back team. If I look at the running backs here, it has gotten ugly. Maybe Jeff Wilson, if Dalvin doesn't sign. Zeke.
Jeff Wilson's the name I was going to put out there. I know we had a little exchange about the Dalvin Cook signing. I don't really understand it from Miami's perspective, given they just invested in Devon Achane, and Jeff Wilson was getting a lot of run, no pun intended, towards the end of last season. Okay.
I've got Jaden Reed here. I like him as a player. I like his value, and it's more that bring back for that Minnesota. But I've also got running backs here that we'd be looking at.
Yeah, let's do Jaden Reed, because I think, again, this goes to the little bit of what I was saying of like investing in players on the same team without the quarterback. But the way that AJ Dillon and Jaden Reed are both going to win are pretty different. And you disagree?
No, sorry. I just saw Batch 9 had drafted Tim Patrick, and I was like, oh, that felt yeah.
No, that's fair. That's rough.
Yeah, he's got an interesting draft going. He went 4 straight running backs, 2 straight tight ends, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight wide receivers, including Tim Patrick. Maybe 4 straight QBs. That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But go back. Sorry. My reaction got in the middle of your Jaden Reed, which I was in agreement. Yeah.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I think, the way that AJ Dillon and Jaden Reed are going to be sort of winning are a lot different. Like if we had drafted Aaron Jones, who is, again, sort of more of the pass catching back in Green Bay, I don't know if I'd want to pair Jaden Reed with him, because they could be cannibalizing some of each other's opportunities. But I think pairing them and hoping that Packers Vikings game goes off, I think is a good move.
Yeah, and I mean, I think of the players who are going to excel in a week 17, I mean, Jefferson's Jefferson, okay, whatever. Then you have Addison, rookie, going to get increases playing time, have more role as season goes on.
Yep.
AJ Dillon, the far younger of the 2 running backs, between him and Aaron Jones, and then Jaden Reed, again, the rookie that I expect to surpass Romeo Dobbs and move into 2 wide receiver sets as the season goes on. So I like all those.
Yeah, I like the way this team is shaping up, for sure.
We do have the benefit of having Justin Jefferson. It really does feel like when you have like Justin Jefferson, the rest kind of feels strong. I mean, and then allows us to get Jalen Hurts as well. Our running backs are definitely light though.
Yeah.
So Derrick Henry, James Cook, AJ Dillon, Jeff Wilson. I'm pretty sure we're going to have 6 of these at the end. Yeah. So we'll keep an eye. This will give us an interesting. I mean, there's some interesting running back names at this point, just given the craziness at the top of the draft around running backs. And then from a wide receiver, we've got 7 now. We did pretty well with our bye weeks after those first 4 to not overlap with any more in the 13-9. So I feel pretty good there. We can probably grab anyone we want for a 8th. Or if we wanted to do a 3rd tight end in round 18, because we just like those better than wide receivers, I think we've got a good enough team. We can do that too.
Yeah. The question, I'll be interested to see if any of the Colts backup running backs into the I would imagine at least one of Deion Jackson or Evan Hall gets taken here in the last 3 rounds, but especially with the
we didn't discuss the Zach Moss. It sounds like he has a broken arm. What was it?
Broken arm. Yeah.
Broken arm. Estimate is 6 weeks. Most likely means he should be back by about or just after week 1. But for me, and I was talking with the ETR guys in Slack about this earlier, if Kenneth Walker misses the next 4 or 5 weeks of practice, but he'll be back by week 1, I don't think you ding him too much on his season-long projections because he's already established himself as that clear, primary starter, even though you have, the Charbonnet could eat into the role. I think someone like Zach Moss, even though he ended last year as their primary back, was their, having decent amount of touches, him not being in practice for the next 5 weeks allows the Deion, allows the Hall to actually find a way to earn more in that role. Yeah. So I do think we need to kind of, I do think from a fantasy perspective, the injury to Moss here really does hurt him.
For sure. And it's a lot with, it has a lot to do with experience. Obviously, rookies missing this time would be a huge detriment to them, not getting up to speed with the playbook and stuff like that. But what potential role you're trying to compete for is a huge aspect of it too. And you make a really good analogy there between Walker and Jackson there, or Moss.
Yeah. All right, we're coming back around, taking a look. So since ours, Tajay went, which makes sense. We have Henry, Zeke, Zamir White, and Chuba all went. I do love me some Tyler Chandler. We've got Gus Edwards, which is not bad with the Dobbins situation. Fournette. I think we probably grab 2 of these. What are your thoughts?
I prefer Gus Edwards here. I think he's just sort of criminally underrated. I don't know if I love Ty Chandler given the investment we've made in the passing game for Minnesota. I don't know how you feel about sort of pairing him there, but
in week 17, around 17, I'm okay with it because we're investing so little capital in Chandler that it could be Ty Chandler, just that offense is better. Maybe Madison is not doing well, gets hurt, and becomes a more pass-heavy offense. Ty Chandler maybe is able to catch some passes. So, I'm probably leaning Chandler here just because, hey, it's a bet in Minnesota, and it's round 17. I don't hate Lenny either, but I think it just makes a little more sense to go with that. I don't love our bye weeks of week 13 here, but hey, we'll survive with Henry, Dillon, Wilson for 1 week.
Yeah, and that's a really good point you make too about, and this sort of gets back to what I was trying to say with the uniqueness aspect of things is getting unique in rounds 1 and 2 is very different than getting unique in rounds 17, 18. That's not an obvious thing at this point, but when you're evaluating, again, your roster construction, stuff like that, it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to think through right now. How good do we feel about our wide receivers? And should we be we're going to be at the bottom of the barrel from a wide receiver aspect with who's available. Are we thinking 8 wide receivers or a 3rd tight end?
There are a couple of tight ends that are going really late that I really like.
Yeah.
But I struggle with, well, okay, never mind. Trey McBride and Mike Gesicki were two of them. So maybe that's
There's still a lot here that I really like.
There are. I know Dank was hyping up Isaiah Likely a little bit too. I think he's a solid pick there. It kind of depends again, like, can you go to the wide receivers that are available?
Yeah. I mean, this is what you're looking at, but we still have a round to go. But we're looking at from the guys that don't have like the I'm never drafted, it's basically Hardman and Claypool.
Yeah, like none of these guys just do. Well, geez, now we got all the tight ends coming off the board. So
that's true. But
maybe
it's funny, but there's still 1, 2, 3 that I'd be happy with in this group.
Okay. I think I kind of lean tight end.
Yeah. We'll see who's available. We'll see who's available. I'm definitely not touching a 7th running back because I do think like we've got strong, like Henry's got to be Henry, and then we're just looking for the rest. I don't want a 2-7-7-2 here. Obviously not going QB. Yeah, it's a bit of a good situation that we don't have a need to do one of the two positions, but like you still want to do it correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Now there's like two tight ends that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
That I'd be excited about.
Trying to look at some correlation aspects. So we do have that New England Buffalo. We don't have any Jets Cleveland, so that'd be a one-off. We don't have any Seattle or Pitt either, so that'd also be a one-off. Tampa Bay New Orleans would be a one-off. I don't know if there's anyone else that's exciting you down here, but yeah.
There really isn't.
Yeah. You gotta really reach for stack. Maybe if you grab Tua, you can grab some Durham Smythe or something like that.
Yeah.
We are next pick. We're gonna go real quick. Wide receivers. So Hardman went. I would have considered him just from a upside scenario. It's pretty ugly after that. Hunter Henry and Conklin. I'm probably okay with either.
I like Hunter Henry here. I think he's getting a little bit more. He's getting some run, at least in New England, based on some of the reports I've seen. Again, helps build out that Patriots passing attack versus Buffalo stack that we sort of have. And again, none of those. There is a situation in which Hunter Henry builds a really solid role for New England in that offense. I don't know if I saw that for like any of the wide receivers that were still available there.
Yep. I'm drafting a little Corey Davis, but not that much. And if so, I want to have some kind of correlation aspect or something. I'm hoping we got Hunter Henry. It seems we kind of just froze in the 18th pick. Let us know in chat. Chat, did we get Hunter Henry? Who do we end up with? We'll see. Maybe if we head to the results page or the completed one, we can pull back up this team. Too many different drafts. There we go. I think this is it. All right. View full draft. Hunter Henry was our last pick. Okay. Cool. Give us the review. How do we do? I know you said you were liking a little earlier. Where could we have maybe done differently? But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I do really like it. Again, Derrick Henry's not someone I normally click on in the second round there, but the way
it was the third round. It was the third round, sir. We drafted Jalen Hurts in the second.
Maybe we should have flipped it around so we could have gotten.
There are no second round Derrick Henrys on here.
But it looks, again, we've got the 6 running backs there. I think that's a really solid group there with Cook and Dillon, and I'm really excited about Jeff Wilson in Miami this offseason as well. I really do like the receivers that we have. Yes, it is kind of weak. Jefferson does help a ton, but I think there is an opportunity for Juju to have a lot of usable weeks. And again, if he is the guy who's always in on 2 wide receiver sets, then is going to, I think, could be peppered with targets this season. Ayuk and Kirk are, I think, decent upside plays. Again, we'll see how Ridley's presence impacts Kirk, but that offense, I think, will be super concentrated among some of the top 3 target getters that they have. And then this tight end group is, again, good. Like Goddard was one of the more targeted tight ends last year, helps build the stack with Jalen Hurts. And I think both Schultz and Henry will have decent roles in their offense, and we get some ADP value with both of them too.
And some week 17 correlation with both the Henry, the Houston, the New England, the Buffalo. I think the one notable thing for me here is like, I'm not used to actually drafting this well-balanced of a team. Like, yes, we are elite at QB because we have Hurts and Cousins. We're honestly like very strong at tight end. And then the wide receivers and the running backs, like it's balanced. It's fine. It's good. It's definitely not great, but it's like pretty good for each. So I like it. I like it overall.
It's balanced, but I can see the upside for the individual weeks, especially in the playoffs, and if it makes it to week 17. Yeah,
no, completely there. This is fun. Sam, appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you for drafting this with us. I think overall we did a pretty good job. Pretty good team. Good team.
Yeah, I'm not one to, again, go super off the rails with some of these extreme builds. And that's just, I think, a function of sort of how I'm not playing nearly as many drafts as you and some other people. So I, don't, not that you're burning those, but I want to make sure that my team's got a solid chance there. So I tend to lean a little bit more conservative, even though I necessarily shouldn't in these big tournaments, but I do like the balanced teams there.
I like that. And one final note, batch 9 ended up with 2 QBs, Bryce Young and Desmond Ridder, to go with the rest of that team. Interesting, bold strategy. Sam might call it unique. We'll see. Sam, now that you're 31 days in, you're about to enter your second month at Fantasy Pros. What do you got going on for August? I know people can find you at Sam Hoppin on Twitter, or just go to my Twitter page and you'll see I tagged him in the show notes for today. But what do you have going on for the rest of the summer?
Yeah, so a couple more articles from a more of a redraft perspective for fantasy football. Going to be joining our Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros podcast a couple times as well. And then, gosh, the season will be here before we know it. We'll have the return of Hopping to Conclusions in season and joining their podcast for that as well.
Awesome. I mean, we have Hall of Fame game happening in Thursday. 3 days. Wow.
So excited.
Football is officially back. All right. Well, definitely give Sam a follow on Twitter. Keep an eye out for his content. For me, I'm always talking about like best ball and fun ways to play best ball. We've kind of come up with a new innovative way. Check out my pinned tweet if you want a free entry to that specifically for followers. But always bringing as many fun ways to play best ball, talk best ball, strategize about best ball, data analytics, data science from Sam on best ball. But chat, you were fantastic. Everyone who was in the draft with us, thank you. Good luck. Hopefully you enjoyed all that EV that I'm sure we inevitably gave you. I will be back on Thursday, and I'll see you all later.